also
it's addictive as well.
Yeah, I think that what you are basically saying is that you can't remain in the same spot and have the same level of intensity just like you would a regular drug.
Exactly.
I mean, that's essentially what you're saying. And imagine now a woman who is the same day to day trying to be everything at the other end. Can you imagine how difficult that's got to be and how devaluing that can be if she's looking on this, on these shows and they have all these augments, and that's what I call them, augments.
Oh, you're right.
They've got all these augmented
augments.
Yeah, these
augmented.
Yeah, all these augments.
Upgraded or downgraded, whatever you look at it.
Additions, which aren't normal additions. And then a regular human woman is looking at this and thinking, wait, I've got to deal with that. He's thinking that in his head.
Yeah.
You know,
and
that's got to be debilitating.
Well, and then they've got all these things too, these additions that are specifically engineered for us. It's what we like. So then all of a sudden you're seeing all these things and you're like, man, wow, look at all that. And then you go and compare. I'll never forget, somebody close to me said, they had a female friend that they were with, and this lady was pretty darn busty. She was really busty. And he came to me. He was like, man, I've watched so much pornography. She doesn't even look big anymore. And I was like, whoa, really? She doesn't? Of all people, she doesn't look big anymore? But,
Shallow High, baby. Shallow High.
But I'm telling you, the movie Shallow Hal. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what that is.
Shallow Hal. It's a great
Shallow
movie.
Hal.
Yeah, Shallow Hal. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm telling you that when he told me that, I was sitting here like, wow. I mean, you must have really been watching some stuff.
Yeah.
Because naturally this person was everybody said it. Everybody knew it, that she was a bustier lady.
Right.
So it was just crazy that how much porn, like you said, devalued this other person.
Right.
Well, wow. They actually need to do a little extra to get me excited in that area now.
Right.
It also goes, when you're watching porn, it changes how you look at women.
It does.
Yes.
And that's a good point. It, instead of looking at them in light of just, their interaction, the person, you start looking at them in the context of what you've seen before.
Yeah.
And it takes I'm going to say, it takes a long time to change that thought process back.
Yes, it does.
A lot.
Yeah.
Because there was times where when I used to watch it, I was like, oh, wow, this size can do this. She's that flexible. And then you really get in the real world and it's not like that. But you go out and you force this body that's not designed to be structured and bent.
Yeah.
Put in different positions. This young lady is not built that way. She's just that modern. Well, what I've been seeing on television is this lady's been put this way because she's an actor.
Yeah.
Right? That's her thing.
And she's getting paid.
She's getting paid.
At the end of the day.
Outside of getting paid, it's a real life situation where she's being contorted by variety of men.
Yeah.
But this one young lady I'm dealing with, she's not like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what it does, women to men and men, we look at our sisters and we try to contort their body in the same ways that we visualize what
and
we
that
saw on
devalues.
television. And that's
really
the
devalues.
devaluing.
Yeah,
that's a good point. So what we've concluded is three things. One, porn is an ever increasing addiction. It's hard for it if you're gonna keep with it. It's hard to stay with it as just something like a little dabble will do you. Number two, it tends to devalue the relationships that you're in, because if you're in a relationship, potentially the comparative which you brought up, Mustang, that the comparisons can make it very, very difficult for a relationship to flourish, because we're no longer looking at the person as a person. We're looking at them in comparison. Mm-hmm. It's like bringing hundreds of people into your bedroom, in your sanctuary, as you called it, Nola, where it wasn't, there was none of that before. There's none of that. You don't have those kinds of comparisons. So now you're adding into their, imagery and lust. We forgot to talk about lust, because the big role of lust is something that I think is also missing, because in a way, in order for you to be aroused, you have to be lusting after what you're seeing on the screen, which isn't actually directed at the person that you're having the relationship with.
Right.
And that's an issue.
And I would like to also add, one of the biggest things that we have with lust is, and I'm not saying that this is for all women or toward all women, but women that wear a lot of tight apparel. as men, we are definitely visual creatures. As we all are, we are definitely visual creatures. And so it doesn't take much for a man to see something and say, you know what, I like what I see. Right. But when you have something that's real tight as a woman, now you're taking us, not y'all, specifically, but we are allowing ourselves as men to go and say, you know what, I'll do this, and that with that body right there because we see everything. We don't have to undress you no more.
Because you've got a match that's already been seen on video. So you are like, well, if she's built this way, this is what that looks like without.
Right.
Now, here's the sad part. Now, I'm gonna actually say, as a recovering porn addict from years and years ago, I've been, struggled from years and years ago. Mine started way back in college. I started watching that stuff, and it's interesting because you almost, when you see somebody going down the street years later, can reference back and say, this is what that looks like. This is what that under those clothes. Yes. This is what this is going to be.
Yeah.
And then you start, actually approximating the people that you meet to that visual that you had before. Yeah. And that's another reason why you're not looking at women the same way.
Yep.
You're not looking at them, it took years. And I literally mean this. It takes years to unlearn that thought process.
That you could have learned in a couple of months, weeks. Yeah,
just from watching that kind of stuff. And if you're not careful, and I think a lot of guys who are dealing with this struggle, we have to find a replacement so that we can renew our mind. The scriptures talk about the notion of renewing the mind. Chris, you can, Mustang, you can probably pull up that actual passage which says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We need a whole new mindset in order to look at things in the way that Jesus would look, because lust, it says that lusting in your heart is just as bad as doing. And we clearly know that in the process of watching that, you are visualizing doing. That there's no other way to get around it. You're visualizing. If you're not participating, you're wishing you could be participating, or you're being turned on by the participation. So at some point, there's lust going on. It's impossible to separate the two.
Yeah. And by the way, to your point, New NIV says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And I also wanted to say something too, to your point earlier, is, seeing all these women, a big part of this is seeing all these women they appear to be loving what they're doing on porn. They just, I don't get it. They just seem like they are loving this. And, my wife might do XYZ, but she doesn't appear or doesn't seem to love it. She says, hey, I'll do it for you. I'm enjoying it while we're together for a moment or two or for a while or whatever the case is, but I'm not crazy about it. So now that might have been completely acceptable prior to porn. And I may say, okay, well, that's fine. She loves this and I love this. And, I like this, doing this with her and blah, blah, blah. But now with the introduction of porn, I'm comparing, or even worse, contrasting her to this person. Well, XYZ loves doing this, or these women seem like they just love doing this. They think this is so great. And you don't seem like you like it that much. You're the
broken.
one. Yeah, you're the one that's messed up. Not me. You're the one that's messed up because you don't like this and the other, when really we've been given a false sense of what women really like. Tina may love doing that. Barbara can't stand it. And Martha thinks it's okay. And we need to accept that from our wives, as opposed to projecting what we see these other women do while getting paid, while, doing this for money.
Right.
Projecting this onto them and expecting them to act like that.
Also, I would like to add to what you just said, Mustang, and go into saying how so many acts that we have seen on television have allowed us to get to where we're at right now sexually.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things that, according to the Bible, the bedroom is so-called undefiled.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how many sexual acts that we took from pornography and brought into
That's
the
a good
bedroom?
point. Yeah.
And so now you have
or you're using this item or using that item.
Right.
But it was not that you're saying, oh yeah, this is fine because the Bible says it's never defiled. But where did you pull those ideals from?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, so again, we've got a lot of different.
To your point, Nola, but back to your point, there is this other thought process, playing again devil's advocate, that the bedroom being undefiled means that you have the freedom of all things within the bedroom.
That's right.
So you have the freedom of all things in the bedroom as long as it's you and the committed partner, your
committed
wife.
partner. Mm-hmm. And I also would like to go as far as to say, if it's something that you have talked about with your partner, or if something you was at a gathering with some other married folks and y'all say, you know what, this is what we do if this topic was sex, and this is what we do to spice up ours. However, I'm saying when you go and you look at something that somebody is getting paid to produce in a false act of sexual pleasure and desire.
Right. They're acting.
Right. Yeah. And now you're saying, you know what, I'm going to take that home and bring it in my bedroom.
And it very well could be harmful to the person that you're spending time with. Yeah.
You know, the reality of it is you never tried it. So why you think it's going to be good?
Right. And the other thing is that we then begin to make, again, comparisons. And I think that's the part that devalues the participant. Mm-hmm. And there's one thing that we did forget, which is the selfish act of self-gratification. Pornography is nothing more than the indulgence in viewing illicit material for our own personal benefit.
There you go.
There isn't really a benefit to the participants on the screen. There's not a benefit to your kids from watching this. There's no benefit necessarily to your wife in watching this. This actually might be a detriment to that relationship.
Exactly.
So, the only benefit of pornography really is, in creating a false sense of passion, and then heightened sense of arousal, which may not necessarily be a natural state to be able to participate in a relationship with your spouse.
It's no different than a drug. It's no different than a drug. A drug is literally used to bring you a temporary form of pleasure. And that's exactly what pornography does. It's literally used to bring you a temporary form of pleasure. And in the end, it will destroy you. And at first it seems innocent. I will just do this once, or I will just do this, X amount of times.
One click.
Yeah, that's all I want. And then all of a sudden, like I said, you found yourself in a downward spiral where you're going, drug addicts a lot of people kind of misjudge drug addicts, assuming they were always drug addicts. They will always be drug addicts. These people weren't like, okay, well, about 6:00 today, I'm going to be a drug addict for the first time in my life. They had no idea. Okay, well, I'm in a bad state in my life. I want a temporary upper. I want to get something to make me feel better. Hey, I'm in a bad state right now. I want a temporary upper. I want to watch pornography.
That is actually going to lead us into our next show. You guys will have to come back next week. We are going to talk about why pornography enters into the life of men and what role it plays in bringing us through circumstances, because there is one reason why guys watch pornography, and we're going to come back and do that next week on the next Conversations from the Cave. Be sure to check us out on our social media platforms, including the Facebook Conversations from the Cave, also on our page as well as our YouTube channel, and finally look at us listen to us on iTunes, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Just had to make sure I got that list right. So those things, and Spreaker.com. That's right, everybody.
Spreaker. It's Spreaker.
It's Spreaker.com. S-P-R-E. It's with an R. SPREAKER.com. So thanks again. Until next time, everyone, love one another.
Conversations from the Cave is brought to you by the Alabama Cornea Care Center, Northern Alabama's first irregular cornea, keratoconus, and scleral lens referral center, specializing in the management of degenerative cornea disease and complications resulting from refractive surgery. For more information, you may visit them on the web at alabamacorneacare.com. The Alabama Cornea Care Center, helping patients see the light of the world. Conversations from the Cave is a production of the Provox Media Group. For more information or to share your questions or comments, visit our podcast Facebook page by searching Conversations from the Cave. The views expressed on this program are the personal beliefs of the panelists and do not necessarily represent the beliefs of the Provox Media Group or its sponsors. Join us next time for more real talk from real men. Conversations from the Cave.